Yes.
And we have to be careful that the things that people complain about in office and says, "Hey, I'm not going to be that way," and come in and do the same corrupt stuff that was done prior
Yes.
to prior administration, and we walk in that
Oh, yes.
same area. We have people that are strong voices here and that really mean the community well, but because others have in mind who they want in office, who they want to
Hmm.
run, they will push those people out the way. And I think it's our job to back those young men, young women that have the heart of the people to say, hey, this is who we need. Now, that may be who y'all have sat behind the wall and
Uh-huh.
said who you want, but that might not who we need in the community.
Most definitely.
And to
Papa,
tell
we
how,
need to tell people we need to actually have more true conversations like you're having this morning.
and
Transparency matters. It
yes.
really does.
And we have people in the
And
community that are strong voices. You, Nikitra Odom Jones, she's going to tell the truth about education. Desmond Brown,
oh yes,
they're going to tell the truth now, whether we like,
yeah, or not.
whether we agree with it or not. They're going to bring truth to the community, and the areas that they bring it in is because they have passion for it.
Uh-huh.
They are serious about it. People like you and different ones. That's what I believe this morning. And when we have strong voices that are talking, I have this morning coming in Ti Lockhart and LJ Malone is going to be
Okay.
our guest this morning, and I certainly want you to to get in this morning and listen to us, because even down to the voices that's here and been pushing our community and pushing us to vote and pushing us to, and it's almost as if even them saying vote, 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 vote is falling on deaf ear, and we need to
Uh-huh.
find out why.
It's falling on deaf ears because again, what we see nationally, we're we're experiencing locally. And so the foolishness that's happening in DC, it's been taking place locally here for decades. We're just now waking up to it,
Yes, yes, yes.
you know. And the transparency is uh, the more we talk, you may not agree, but you have to accept the truth.
We have to accept the truth. Because
Yes,
I was watching
we have to
on
accept.
the Water Commission, Desmond Brown, and now Commissioner Lucas is on that board as well. But when I watch the meeting, it's almost like two are fighting against. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. It's kind of weird
And
to
then
me.
let me say this: all of our boards have been stacked. You have to see. You have to see the broader picture. They only allow one or two of us, people of
To get
color,
on
to
board.
sit on these boards. Yeah, because they stack them to represent their agenda. And so what you get is another backlash of we're not going to allow these two individuals to have conversation. We're going to cut their voice off. We don't want the community to know exactly how we run the boards. So every board in Macon, Bibb County is stacked. And it probably is greater when you look across the nation
It's
that
sad.
it has the same fundamental setup.
Right.
And it's not right. It's
It's not
not
right.
right.
It's not right. I was watching the other day on the water board meeting, not this previous one, but as they talked about the vacation that was taken and all the foolishness and money that was spent, and
Yeah.
the man would just take the card and tear it up. What that doesn't erase what's been done. And then you
Oh yeah.
got Desmond Brown speaking up. Commissioner says that so, and it's like we didn't hear you. Let's just keep moving. That has to be stopped, and we
Uh
have to
huh.
remember it's the people's building, it's the people community,
It's our
it
government.
belongs to the
Yes,
people.
right. The government belongs to the people.
It belongs to the
We the
people.
people.
We the people, and
Yes.
I think we've lost
We
that part. We the people.
yes we have, and we settled, and we said we won't get engaged. They ain't gonna change. They're not gonna change because enough of our voices are not saying, uh, we see you, we hear you. Stop the foolishness. Stop the foolishness.
Right.
What took place? What took place this past weekend nationally is that a group of people said, "Okay, we got to fix this problem that's taking place in D.C. We're responsible for it,
We're responsible. We're responsible. And we
and
can't
we got to
change
fix
federal government until we change local government.
it."
And
Exactly.
the voting, the vote, and I have to give it to Desmond and Commissioner and Senator. I mean, they are saying, come on, y'all, let's vote. We'll give you cars. We'll give you transportation. Something, there's a connection missing. There is either the people they're voting for they don't trust. It's something missing, and we have to find the missing link.
The missing link is that we can't accept crumbs too.
That's it.
Let's be honest. The other piece is you don't scratch my back and I scratch yours.
Do what's right for
We
the
got to
people.
make sure, do what's right for the people.
Gotcha. Let's roll. We're boxing this morning. We're going to tell the truth, Macon, let's talk. And today, the truth, we're going to talk about the truth. I hope I got all that stuff spelled right up there. All right, it's getting ready to go into drive time. Thank you so much. I love you. I got
I
that.
love you.
All right, God bless you. That is Renee Bumpers this morning, right now, right here at 980 WDDO. Getting ready to go into drive time. Got some guests coming in this morning. Her name is Tia Lockhart and Mr. L.J. Malone is going to be here in the studio in just a few minutes right here with me and Don Scott on Drive Time. This is where we're going to have real talk this morning. Just things that I feel and really want to help embrace, push, and build. That's what Bishop Scott and I want this radio station to do. And so I know it's not commissioner anymore, but it should always be commissioner to me. Commissioner Lucas, Desmond Brown, if they're on this morning and we'll call in, because we need to push and understand the effect that we have not voting, not talking, not pushing the agenda for the people. What has ever happened to we the people? All right, 478-250-1444. Going into drive time in just a few minutes. Good morning. Hit share this morning. It's going to be a great show right here on 980 WDDO. Vertiz 00. All right, getting ready to call that roll. Give me just a second. All right, want to good morning. Want to thank God for all of our new listeners all the way up in North Carolina and Washington and Delaware. Good morning, Brother Kelvin, Miss Malone. Let's see, got some more listeners this morning. All right, I'm glad you're on. Thank you so much for tuning in to the #1 gospel station right here in Macon and Middle Georgia. Getting ready to go in drive time where the truth is going to be talked about today on 107.9 FM. What's really going on in Macon? 7 people have committed suicide right here this year, according to the coroner's report. That is alarming. It is alarming. It really, really is alarming. 7 suicides this year. 7 suicides this year in Macon and Middle Georgia. Give me a call. All right, let's go into drive time. Here we go.
That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Wait. That's it.
Drive time. Make sure you hit share this morning. It's going to be a very powerful show. I'm praying that Commissioner Lang Lucas is on with us, I hope, this morning. Desmond Brown, other community leaders are on with us this morning. Going to have Tia Lockhart in here in a few minutes. And LJ Malone going to be here right on drive time this morning. Good morning to you. All right, good morning to you. It's drive time with Vertiz. I got a lot going on, but it's a good day. Let's call the roll this morning at drive time 478-250-1444. Good morning, Bishop Don Harris Scott. Give me your hello and your very own way. Good morning, Nikitra Jones Oldhams. Good morning to you. Amzie Rouse Robinson. Good morning to you. Commissioner's on with us. Good morning, Commissioner Elaine Lucas for Water Board District 1. Good morning, Glenda Summers. Good morning to you, Jamarcus Q. Hogan. Desmond Brown, Water Board. Good morning to you. Ali Wash, good morning to you. Daphne Thomas Williams, good morning to you. Lashrell Taylor, good morning to you. Phyllis Renee Theodore, good morning to you. Lashania Rouse Brown, good morning to you. Lisa Williams Riggins, good morning to you right here on 980 WDDO. Getting ready, Krista Karen Jones. Hey, Krista Karen Jones, how are you? Steve Bryant, good morning to you right here, 980 WDDO. I'm going to get my guests. They are coming in. Travy Mitchell. We're going to get them seated, get them situated, and I'll be right back with you in 2 and 2. I guess I'm going to say 2 and 2. All right? Vertice Zero Zier. It's going to be Macon having real talk this morning. Let's tell the truth about Macon, Georgia. Antonio Jackson, good morning. Cam Golden, good morning to you. All right, let me get my guests situated, hit share, and let's get to thank to you and Bishop who gives us strength to continue the fight. We got to get in the fight this morning. All right. All right, good morning to you. Let's see. Let's get our guests in here on this morning, man. I am so excited. All right, there they are, everybody. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Tia.
Peace and blessings.
Let me
Good
see.
morning.
Let me see. I got to get some volume over there. Got to get some volume over there. Let me make sure I got you in here. All right. Let me try something else. Like, good morning.
Good morning.
I got you in there. If you can pull that mic up for me, Tia, so I can get you in. Mr. Malone, good morning to you, man.
Good morning. Good morning.
Glad to have you all on this morning. Thank you so much. We're going to be talking about Miss Tia and Mr. Malone. We're going to talk about, let's talk about Macon. Let's talk about the concerns that the citizens are having concerning the money, concerning just different favors and things. And it's almost as if though the voice of the people have been silenced. This morning, what do you all bring as concerns or the people need to be concerned about in our communities?
Well, I would say for me, after the incident yesterday at Macon Mall, first and foremost, I want to offer my condolences to the young man family. But I think that mental health is a great concern, and it's very important that it is addressed in this community with a sense of care that I feel like is missing.
Mental health. It's amazing. I talked about that in my church, and I dealt with the whole 2 months about mental health to the sense of we talk about God, we talk about church, we can dance, we can shout, but people, when they deal with mental health is what it is. It can be good mental health, bad mental health, but we all deal with mental health. But the downfall, the illness, or the pressure, the concern, and I think if we bypass that, then the man is still on hold. What's your opinion, Mr. Malone?
Yeah, absolutely. The key word is whole. Even with mental health, one of my best friends, Chuck Henderson, he's a member of the Association of Black Psychologists, and he was one of he let me know that the root word or the etymology of psychology is spirit, psyche. That prefix means spirit. So at one time, the mind and the spirit were considered the same. And even when we're talking about mental health and how it relates to everything else, our physical health, spiritual health, everything that comes along with it, financial health, all of it, it's all connected. And I think that's one thing right now that a lot of our people maybe don't recognize the connection amongst all things. So even when we talk about politics, or when we're talking about, how do we apply a lot of these different solutions, or even the problems that we have, how are they connected to a solution? When we talk about each other, how are we connected to one another? In spirit and things like that. So I think connection is very important for us to understand. I mean, how all things work together.
Well, why has the word growing up? I'm a little older than you all. Back in our time, to say mental health was a bad word. It was almost like you don't say that, or it's a disgrace. But how do we get that to let everybody know it's okay to ask for help? It's okay to see a psychiatrist. It's okay to deal with your issues or talk about them. How do we move? How do we get rid of that fear?
Well, I think for one way we get rid of the fear is just by uh, we have to be able to be vulnerable with one another and be transparent one another. But it takes empathy. So that's why I like how Tia, started by talking about our mental health and us, having that care and concern for one another, and know that it's okay because we've been taught that we have to be, that being strong per se is always being, not being sad or not being, in your emotions, but being able to embrace your emotions and what you're feeling, that is you being strong. It just matter how do we transfer that? How do we transfer those feelings or of sadness or despair or whatever it is, insecurities? How do we turn those insecurities into a plan of action? And having a community, having a village is also very important. Having a sense of community. I was reminded of another thing from the Association of Black Psychologists. There was something where they were talking about therapy versus communal therapy, like where communal therapy is more effective than a person actually going to see a therapist one on one. So having a community or having people, your family, friends, people, close folks that are around you that you can go to, when you're stressing or going through things, it's so important. So I know a lot, and we do stress that of course, you do need to go see a therapist. Not saying that going to see a therapist is not a good thing, but how valuable is it to have close friends or family or just people in your community that you can trust and go to when you're going through something.
So,
Yeah.
so in doing so, Miss Tia, what do you feel this morning that our community to pull us together to understand mental health, to understand how we can resolve it, to understand how we can push together? Where do we have to have a starting point? Where is that starting point this morning?
For me, the starting point is always spiritual, but like LJ said, it's a holistic understanding. So with like emotional intelligence, when you talk about empathy and compassion and transparency and vulnerability, that starts with us understanding, like LJ said, that emotions are neither good or bad. Is what we do with those emotions, how we actually carry them out. If we're angry, you can have a justified reason for being angry or upset, but what are you doing with that anger? What are you doing with that frustration? How are you using it constructively, to make not only yourself better, but the world better? And also, I like you said, it's communal. It's real easy to get stuck in a bubble, to feel like nobody understands you, to feel like nobody cares. Everybody else has their own problems. And while that may be true, it's better for us to work through those problems together, because that's when we understand and can realize that a lot of us are going through the same struggles. We're dealing with the same problems. And when we don't have that sense of community, when we feel like we're isolated in our issues, that's when those problems can become bigger than they need to be, because we're not expressing ourselves, or we don't feel like anyone cares about us, or whatever the case may be. So I think that it's important to have that spiritual grounding, but also have that community to where you can talk to somebody and know that you're not alone, or to have someone when you do talk to them, they're not just telling you, oh, well, everybody else is going through that. But yeah, they may be going through that, but how does that connect?
Okay, we having just difficulties right here.
My, I'm sorry. Yeah, how can I be, justified in my feelings and my emotions, and I can connect with you and understand that, okay, I see that you went through that too. Thank you for sharing that with me. So now I can maybe, use the knowledge or wisdom that you provided me with as a way to, form a solution for myself, or even just to have somebody there that will listen and care and show concern. And okay, now I've been able to vent and get all of this out that I've been holding on and suppressing, and now I can move forward in something in a positive way because I've been able to get clear vision and clear
Mhm.
insight on what I need to do
Do
myself.
do you think there should be special fundings? I mean, we use fundings for so many other things that are not useful. Do you think, LJ Malone, that there should be maybe a special funding of government to say, hey, let's put this toward helping our people mentally or emotionally in our communities? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, there already is, quite a few. You have a lot of funds that are out there. Grant programs, and there are a lot of different programs already out there that are government funded. Right now, my biggest thing is there being a convergence between the public sector and the private sector for us, especially as the black folks. Well, we need to be able to solve problems in house as well as being able to have the outreach services from government and from the public sector. And I think that's one of the biggest things with us in the black community that we're lacking somewhat is being able to have that balance of where private sector and public sector work together. And private sector meaning being able to have our churches, being able to have our own businesses, that be able to have our own people that are in the community, being able to service, our needs, as well as being able to have the outreach services from government, or in the public sector. So, that's how I feel about things that are happening with us, because a lot of times, we're stuck in the state of dependency, a lot of times, and I was told one time, that people only help people who don't need help, and it's weird, but at the same time, it's real, and you see other groups of people, who are able to thrive, even here locally, there are two quote unquote minority banks here in Macon, Georgia, right? They're what they might call black owned banks. If you look up right now, minority banks or black owned banks,
Hmm.
you'll see American Pride will pop up, and they're owned by East Indians, right? And they're a very a small percentage of the population. They own a lot of our stores, a lot of the businesses, a lot of real estate, and they actually the have the highest medium income of any group of people in the United States. Actually, so when you look at even the campaign contributions from a lot of local officials, across the board, no matter who they are, not judging anybody, but you'll see them, giving campaign contributions, and then so when it comes down to their needs, they're front and center. Government or public sector is front and center to handle whatever's for them. Like right now, you see even on the federal level, you see some East Indians who have very high positions in the federal government right now. Even when you talk about these deportations and things of that nature.
as they spoke earlier and said it's important that we deal and understand what's going on concerning mental health. And so we're just trying to. All right. Tia, are you back with me?
I am.
Okay, okay. We got to get that volume so I can have you in the studio. All right, super, super. All right, Mr. Malone, we're back. What are some concerns? We have so many people online this morning dealing with our community for our government, our concerns. So many people have so many concerns about the money, the finances, where things are going, what we're doing. Where are we, do you all feel, in Macon and Middle Georgia, Tia?
I think that there is a level of transparency that is missing in our community. I think that it's important for the community to know truly what's going on, where monies are going, who's receiving what, and where our tax dollars are being spent. As taxpaying citizens, I think that it's important. Um, like when you go back to the mental health, like are things being spent in a way that is going to move our community forward, and not just particular people in our community, but all people. So
People. So
I think that it's definitely important that, questions are able to be asked without any, intimidation or any fear of retaliation. I think that, we have to be able to, ask the tough questions, have the hard conversations, so that we can move forward and all, thrive in this community.
Why is there retaliation? Why is there, you feel, Mr. Malone, that if I don't agree with you, I'm telling the truth, but if I don't agree with you, I'm going to blackball you. I'm going to have people not push your agenda. What has brought that on in our community? This is something that was talked about this morning before you all got here. And for Tia to say that, what has brought that power and authority?
Well, yeah, well, that's we have we live in a society that I don't know if a lot of people really heard of the caste system, but there's a class system here in America that trickles down to even here on the local level. But the caste system is something that is it's something that we should look into. I don't want to get into too much into that right now, but the overarching idea is in that there's a small group of people control
Right.
of the lives of the large majority, right?
That's
And
that's
right,
correct.
and when you have a city like Macon, Georgia, where we have a majority black population, if black folks recognize our power, we
That's
recognize
right.
our power of the vote. If we got together and support each other's businesses, if we didn't look to harm one another before we look to help one another, if we did those things, Macon could literally be another Atlanta, Georgia per se.
I
Uh,
believe that.
and our geography is amazing. Our history is second to none. There's so many wonderful, beautiful things about this town, and there are people who understand and know that, and they don't want that to happen because they want to.
So the fear of saying, because I don't have that fear, the fear of saying, hey, the mayor is doing this wrong, Sheriff Davis is doing this wrong, or just name some people that's doing this wrong. Why do we cover that? Why are we afraid to say this is not right? It's hurting our community. Just because you tear a house down don't mean you help my community. I mean, tearing a house down.
Oh yeah,
What?
that
How's
part
that?
is true. Yeah,
Huh?
that's crazy. No, that's crazy. Like I speak on that one specifically because that I've been a big proponent of speaking out about our history of redlining here in Macon,
Okay.
Georgia. And with us being the most redlined city in America, I don't think people really understand what that means. Even when we talking, and I've had this conversation with the mayor, when he is on this blight fight, and when you're tearing down these houses, but you don't have a plan to rebuild, right?
Right.
So even with affordable housing is a codified word. Because at the end of the day, redlining kept people from being able to own homes, and home ownership is the foundation of wealth building.
Yes,
Period.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
when we talk about how do we solve the problem with housing, especially in Macon, Georgia, the most redline city in America, there should be there should be housing programs that are allowing people to own homes, right?
That's right. I agree.
Making housing authority is great. Having people to just having a place to stay and having rental property. Those things are necessary as well. But it's supposed to be a stepping stone to home ownership. But if we're not having that conversation, or if we're talking about tearing down these houses in these previously redline areas who are still suffering from the effects of redlining, and you had things that happened after redlining, like urban renewal, when they toured the interstates through predominantly black neighborhoods like Pleasant
Right.
Hill. And Pleasant Hill wasn't the only one, and like Unionville was
That's
torn
right.
through as well, and even in South Macon. And those things need to be corrected. And there were a lot of other factors that played into these things. You had unfair lending practices. That's why you had to have the Fair Housing Act, where you had banks that were still perpetuating the same things. Even afterwards. So now that's why it's even such a dangerous time right now, where they're trying to talk about these anti so-called DEI efforts, when taking away equity and inclusion and these types of things. When of course, there are other groups of folks, and people say, or white women took advantage of those programs more than anyone else or what have you. But it just the concept, or even the idea of when we're having these conversations as to what are the root problems, and how do we solve these problems? If we're not getting to the root, of what's happening, then how can we even solve these issues? So yeah, when we talk about housing and this blight fight stuff, yeah, of course, people don't want trees, and don't want to have shrubs and all types of things happening, around their homes with these blighted homes, or what have you. But at the end of the day, what's the plan to rebuild?
That's right.
And when you rebuild a community, first of all, it's not about building buildings.
That's
You know,
right.
true community development is when you build people first.
You
You
better
know,
believe it.
you build people, then you start talking about the buildings. And T and I, we do a lot of work around community development, and not just here in Macon. We do it all over the state and country. And when you go to anyone who's really doing true community development, they're gonna tell you that you build people first, and then you go into building the buildings. And in most cases, they start with concepts like social determinants of health, right? Where you actually are pulling data, and you're looking at things like food insecurity,
That's right.
housing insecurity. You're looking at people's exposure to asthma and the allergies and all these other different aspects that come along with the air quality, or just like even in Macon, Georgia, for instance, right? We have the worst. We're last in the state in air pollution, right? We have the worst air pollution in the state of Georgia, right? But who knows that,
Who knows
right?
that? Right.
Right? Like we have Georgia Power Plant in Juliet that releases more carbon emissions than anything else in the Western Hemisphere, right? We have two interstates running right in between. We have 75 and 475. What all of the black neighborhoods, really, when you look at redlining, all the neighborhoods are connected. We talk about West Side versus Bloomfield versus South Side and this and that, right? But Pleasant Hill is connected to Unionville. Unionville is connected to Bellevue.
Right.
You keep going back the other way. West still connected. West Side is still Unionville, still connected to Alphabet City. Alphabet City, and it's still connected to South Macon. South Macon is connected to Bloomfield. We're all one. We're connected, and all of it is in between 75 and 475, right? And there's certain parts of Macon, in these black neighborhoods, when we talk about environmental justice, right? That's the term.
Yes, sir.
And there are certain in these same neighborhoods which are covered by what they call Brownsfields. When you look at some of these maps, you'll see literally brown fields covering these spaces. That the temperature is even higher in these areas. Like it's 10 degrees, like 10 to 15 degrees, sometimes hotter in poor and underserved black neighborhoods in Macon, Georgia, than it
Wow.
is if you go way out North Macon, or way out south bit, where you don't have as much exposure to a lot of these different elements. So when we talk about building green spaces, or when they have these bike lanes and things like that, when they're trying to create these different components of community to give people a sense of health and wellness, they need to be able to connect the whys, right? But if nobody's telling us that we have these issues, then why would people want to be motivated to get involved with some of these different things? So we have to start telling the truth, and with data, because right now everything in Macon, Georgia has been painted with the narrative, with no data, period. Like there's no data. I'm begging. I begged the mayor yesterday on the post. We were going back and forth on something. I begged him to show some data, even when it comes to these when it comes to the cameras, the school cameras, right? I mean, that's what Sheriff Davis said. He said the data doesn't point to, he doesn't even understand the connection, between some of these things with the data. So like that's what I think us as a people need to be asking for around here. We need to be asking for our budget reports, because even with this American Rescue Act money that our mayor got, people look at it, oh, he's doing all these great things, economic development or what have you, but those were AARP funds. American Rescue Act funds were passed by Democrats for one, and a lot of those, a lot of that money was meant to help with historical disinvestments in our community, right? Not just for what we dealt with COVID. I don't know if a lot of people even understand that part. So when we use $9 million out of our American Rescue Act money to tear down blighted homes, but yet we still don't have a plan for home ownership, even with the affordable housing fund that was put together. Affordable housing, once again, what about home ownership
Right.
program?
We have a caller right quick, Malone. Hold on a minute. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Is that Deacon?
Hey, Deacon Desmond Brown. Good morning. How are you, man?
All is well, Chief, and well is all.
Man, listen, this is the great show. It's called Macon Let's Talk by Telling the Truth. And we have Miss Tia Lockhart in here this morning, and Mr. Malone. Desmond Brown, what are you bringing this morning? Because I want to hear it.
Well, yes, sir. First, I want to say, when I logged on and saw Miss Lockhart on here and LJ Malone, I want to thank you to WDDO for being a wonderful platform. You introduced her to the world, and I'm here to say that she showed up. And I'd like to pose a question to your listeners this morning, Chief. Yes. Where are the men in this community? Miss Lockhart showed up to the meeting. Miss Westbrook showed up to the meeting. I listened this morning to First Lady Bumpers on the radio. I got me a new partner in crime. Elaine Lucas is on the board with me. All of these are women that are speaking out and coming to the meetings like Ms. Lockhart did. She sat through the entire thing. And it's good that she sat through, Chief, for this reason and this reason alone, because it was brought to our attention that the Macon Water Authority stopped. We are no longer airing the public meeting on Facebook Live. And that's a concern of mine and board member Lucas, because we have no way to fact check what is said in the meeting, what is dictated properly in the minutes, without having people like Ms. Lockhart who could come. She had her notes. She was taking good notes over there. And I was like, thank goodness, because you have to have a witness to what was stated. We also had the journalists.
Why is the meeting stop being viewed on Facebook? Anybody know? What's the real? I mean, we have to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, I'm not speaking for nobody else but Desmond Brown, as I do. I feel like the media of Facebook, it allowed what we are praying to the universe for, we're praying to God for, and that is for you all to be able to know what is going on. And unless you get off your jobs and show up at 2 p.m. and sit from there to 5:30, then you don't know. But that's okay, because I spoke with Commissioner Board Member Elaine Lucas, and we got to get someone, Chief, to come and just sit in there and go live on Facebook. I don't care if it's 10 people. We need different groups for these different authorities, as First Lady Bumpers was, and you was talking about this morning. We got the Board of Education meeting. It is wrongfully imbalanced. It does not reflect this community. We have 2 board members on there, and the rest of them are majority white. Same thing at the Macon Water Authority. 2 board members on there, and the rest of them are the majority on the board are whites. Why is this? It's this really by design, because we're on here trying to be transparent. I heard the word transparency on the show this morning. Right. That, to me, when you do what the chairman, Gary Bechtel, did on his own, and chose not to have a public meeting on a public platform such as Facebook, then I don't see where the transparency at. That's just my opinion. Um, I want to be the board member, the elected official that is about being transparent. And so I just want to say to Ms. Lockhart, thank you. I saw you. We saw you. And you coming in, sitting through that entire meeting shows, Chief, that now we need 29,999 more,
That
to get to the
30,000.
30,000. Because we got one with Miss Lockhart. She sat through it, and I need more people to show up. This is your community. This is our home, and we must take a stance and start being at the meeting.
Desmond, let me ask you a question. I also want to ask Mr. Malone and also that Ms. Lockhart. Do you feel, this is just me talking, do you feel that a lot of the people that the community respected, like whether they were their educators or their mentors, do you think that the voice of those people, just because their voice is talking, is always for the interest of the people? Because sometimes we're influenced by that used to be my teacher, that used to be my principal, that used to be my daddy's cousin. But is it always the right voice, Miss Lockhart, for the best interest, we the people? What's your thought on that?
I would say my thought, honestly, is no. It depends on the intention of what's being said, the context of what's being said, and then also, again, we bring in that transparency. I think a lot of times, for a lot of us, we feel discouraged or we feel disempowered. We feel
Right.
like our voice doesn't matter, our vote doesn't matter. People are being put in positions, and so we just go along to get along. But I think that it's important that when we are listening to people, we're really listening to the true message that's being presented. We read between the lines. We're able to ask questions, and then we determine it. We do our own research. We definitely make sure that what people are saying, that it can be verified and validated. That
That's
we're
right.
not just, oh, I like you. I've seen you on posters. I've seen you on flyers. I've seen you doing this, that, and the third. And that means, you are a reliable or a viable resource. That doesn't necessarily, those things don't correlate necessarily. They're not mutually exclusive. So I think that it's important for us to have education. And I think a lot of times our community isn't educated because of the lack of transparency, because of those feelings of disempowerment. So we have to get back to a point where we start spreading knowledge and education
That's
amongst
right.
ourselves, and we start taking those extra steps. We have these smartphones, we have all of these, this access to a plethora of information, and we have to be able to, figure out what's misinformation, what's actually factual,
That's
and
right.
be able to, understand what those things mean. How do we, take that information and then make it into something that is actually solution based, and that's helpful not just for me myself, but for my entire community? Because if we're only looking from an individualistic standpoint, even when it comes to information, that means that I might take something as a bias because, okay, this is going to benefit me too. So you saying something and it sounds real good because it's going to benefit me, but in the long run, what about my community? What about my next door neighbor? What about 5 years from now? We're
Right.
not thinking long term either. So I think that we have to take all those things into consideration.
Two questions, Mr. Malone, for you as well. There is a scripture that says God's people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. That's one. Number two, why is it that there's a group that already has in mind who they want to be in office or run for office, and will discourage people that are qualified for the office or have a heart for the people to not run? Says, no, we got somebody in mind. You shouldn't do it. How do we get past that? Because it's true. It's here.
Yeah, I think Tia really just hit on a lot of that. When she talked about having more of a collective approach than this individualistic approach. And then that leads to a lot of this tribalism that we have even here around, where you have these certain pockets of groups or these little smaller groups that want to make decisions for everyone else. There's a word for that. It's called paternalism. And we're dealing with a whole lot of that, where people feel like they know better for you than you do,
That's right.
and we're supposed to be able to listen to folks, politics or communities. We're supposed to have a bottom up approach, period. It's not supposed to be a top down approach to everything. And with that lack of knowledge, gives certain people power, because that power that they have through they keep from people from having the information, or from being able to help themselves. Because if you give people knowledge, then they can help themselves. They might not necessarily need you, quote unquote, anymore. But if you really truly care about people, as I say in the Bible, also, you don't give a man a fish for a day so he eat for a day. You teach them how to fish so they can eat for a lifetime.
Right.
That should be the approach in leadership. But we don't have that. It's this, I want you to need me and be dependent on me every time you need something mentality. And it needs to be stripped. Needs to be stripped away. And I would also just like to say that I think that when it comes to having that collective approach, we really need to understand that. Like when I was with Black Voters Matter, I was a regional organizer for Black Voters Matter for a few years, and they used to always, it was a great organization, and it was one thing that they constantly tried to get in the minds of our organizers and people in the community, and that was that we need to pay more attention to policy than politicians.
Mm.
Right? And that's one thing we really need to break out of as a people. We need to understand what policy is. And those are the games that are being able to be played around here with us, even with this us being in a nonpartisan town after consolidation, where you have Republicans who can pose as Democrats, and vice versa, or whatever. So people don't necessarily recognize the policies, that actually, benefit our communities, because we are just looking for the savior figure or somebody to come and just tell us everything we need to know, rather than us being empowered ourselves. So, we need to, be empowered through functionality, and not just through the form, whatever it is that we see. We need to understand how does this thing function,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, and then we can create these forms, through our functionality.
Your thoughts, Desmond Brown.
Thank you, Chief.
Mhm.
I would like to say, when it comes to what you just said in regards to being told that this has to be God, because I was told when I got in politics that I was too young to get into politics. Yet God said, no, I'm in politics and I'm making a difference in my community. And this came from uh, people that I looked up to in this community, Chief, black leadership, and I just don't believe that you're too old or you're too young. I believe that if you feel that you can make a difference in this community and you want to learn, then those who came before Desmond Brown owe it to the Desmond Browns, to the Tia Lockhart, to the LJ Malone, to train them, to take them by their hand and guide them so that they can pass the baton. And so when it comes to what I want to talk about policy, what LJ said, that's so true, Chief. We need to understand term limits in Middle Georgia. When is the next election coming up for these elected seats?
That's right.
And we can all find people to get in those seats and have a meeting before the election. You can't move to Macon 2 months before the election and think that you can qualify for that seat. You have to be here for years for some of these seats, or 2 years. So we have to start today to position. Mr. Mahone knows this is a chess move we're playing now, as he is a great chess player. You have to strategize your move. You don't just haphazardly move on the chessboard. And so we're sitting here offering solutions to your listeners this morning. The first step is start coming to the meetings. And then the second step is think of lawyers, think of people in the community that speak out, that you see doing neighborhood cleanup with Miss Aisha Warner, Ellen.
Yes.
Those are the people that we need to look at to see if they will be interested in representing our districts. And then let's get them involved. Let's get them elected.
Desmond, let me ask you
That's the
this.
solution.
Let me ask you this. When you go to present ourselves, something Mr. Malone said. Good morning, Bishop Scott. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being on with us. Something,
Hey, Bishop.
Good morning.
something Mr. Malone said, which I so agree with, is that when you're going to challenge something or when you're going to go after something, you need to know your information. You need to know what you're talking about because when you go to talking, people already know that you don't know, or and they will tell you anything. They will manipulate you. They will make you feel as though you're stupid or dumb. And but if you've researched it, if you've studied it, if you know, then I don't care how you talk. I'm not going to change what I know. And if I know something and you have deceived people by misinformation and I got true information,
That's right.
you understand what I'm saying? If we're going to build a coalition or whatever we're doing here and having a platform, that's why I called it truth this morning, because we can be told many things. But Bishop Scott, we've already researched, we've already poured information, we've already requested information, we already read. It's just like he was talking about. Malone knows what I'm talking about. Do you not know in Atlanta, Georgia, West End used to be considered a black area of millionaires? It was money there, and they built a highway through. 20 was built through the area and divided it, and now it is now it's like the used to be called like a bad area. But when you know the truth of something or the facts on something, when you present yourself solid and not to be embarrassed or shaken down. What's your thought on that, Mr. Malone?
Yeah. No, you about to say something, Deacon Brown?
Yes,
Deacon,
sir.
the deacon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The deacon. That's right. I was going to say, you're so
That's
spot on with
that
that, Chief.
that
Because,
shea
see,
butter
here's the
deacon.
thing. The Shea Butter Deacon, y'all better be glad today, Friday. I'll be in the tub talking to you. But listen now. See, when you when you broadcast, Chief, the Mueller reporter about the mayor being a Republican, and then we had people come on to the station saying he's a Democrat. Then now we had someone come on to the station that says he's
But
Republican.
I didn't
See,
shake. I didn't shake
that's
when
the
I said it.
example.
Right. I didn't shake when I
That's the
said it.
example.
Right.
No, sir. And then now at the meetings, it's because I had information on what the executive director did with those purchase cards that I stood my ground, and next thing you know, he cut up the card. You see, because the Monroe reporter got it right. We got the Macon Melody getting stories out there now. Even
Yes, sir.
Liz Fabian with the Macon Newsroom, she just did the article that where he said that we did have a purchase card policy. Now they're trying to say that we didn't, because I'm standing on the truth.
That's right.
We do have a policy.
That's right.
You're just trying to doggone backtrack now because you possibly have done wrong. So we have to stand firm in truth when we deal with these policies that LJ brought up about in these different organizations. And as long as we stand on the truth, we won't fall, Chief. So yes, I mean you brought it out. I just thank God for these media not giving us banana news no more. That they're starting to give us the apple, and that's all we ask for in this community,
Yes, sir.
so that we can better it.
Yeah, I like to shout out to Making Melody too, man. Like Making Melody is something that everybody in this community needs to be supporting that publication. The publisher, Caleb Slinkard, is an amazing person. He's a really good guy. He's unbiased. He's gonna tell the truth on both ends. But he's definitely doing some really really important stories right now that we should be paying attention to. But yeah, I just like to just say that. But to answer your question, as far as information, and us need to understand how important that is. That's why I was bringing that up earlier about data, and how right now narrative is being presented. Now, like even with there have been some awards that we've gotten, which is cool. We've gotten some awards for or some recognition, I would say, from some national publications, like even with the Morgan Indian Mounds, and how it's one of the top places to visit in the world. I 100% agree. I'm a historian more than anything. People tell you I know a lot about those mounds from 17,000 years of continuous habitation to the Olmecs, to our connection to the Mayans, to them being connected to the stars, to them having the same geometry as the pyramids in Egypt, right? But even when it comes to us as a people, these neighborhoods in Macon that are going underserved, and people not paying attention to what's happening in the surrounding communities around downtown. Even Newtown Macon got an award for what they were doing, downtown, right? And there's something that people really need to be aware of, and I've been very vocal about this. And I've told Urban Development Authority, I've told Newtown Macon, and these other groups that are building up downtown, and what they're calling the urban core, right? When you do pretty much any kind of urban planning or development in most cities, they use this approach where they say, well, we need to build up downtown, and that's considered to be the urban core, because if you build up the downtown, then it builds a tax base for the rest of the city, and so on and so on, right? So we've had that being told to us for like the last 20 years or more here in Macon, as it relates to this urban core and this downtown development. And now they're that urban core. If you look at a map, because it's a map and it's a real zone, right? They've zoned this. It incorporates these surrounding historically predominantly black neighborhoods and underserved neighborhoods, like half of Pleasant Hill, not the entire Pleasant Hill, just the half that's on the downtown side of the interstate. You got Fort Hawkins neighborhood, and now they've included Fort Hill. And then you're going out South Macon of Second Street and almost going out towards Eisenhower. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because that data, right? That data that comes from those surrounding neighborhoods around downtown is now being used to get money from different federal programs, state this is historical money that's meant for black neighborhoods. There was some kind of Community Reinvestment Act in 1972. They created different programs, and one of them it was a CDFI, and that CDFI essentially is a bank, Community Development Financial Institution, which is what Newtown Macon has been functioning as for like the past 3 or 4 years, right? And in most cases, the CDFIs are utilized to reverse the effects of redlining. Period. Like that's truly what the purpose is, right? And I've had conversations with folks in Newtown. There's a couple good folks in Newtown that I respect, like my brother George Thomas, who's over there. But there's some things that are happening in Newtown where they're not being transparent, and letting people know, hey, we have the CDFI this year that's available. They just gave out almost $100 million, last year, in loans. And, we can loan money to not just people in downtown or to the urban core, but we can loan money all over Macon, Georgia, because that's why we got this money. That's why we're able to be a CDFI, because of Macon is the most redline city in America. And when you understand what redlining is, if you look at the old redlining maps, it says it specifically that they had these agents go to these different neighborhoods and track whether or not certain neighborhoods will be able to qualify for these particular loans. And in Macon, you'll see the red line, and you'll see the red line chart for Macon, and when you go to the report on Pleasant Hill, right? Pleasant Hill at that time probably had any and everything. It probably was the best neighborhood in Macon at the time as far as functionality, everything that they had in the neighborhood. The only thing it probably didn't have was the running water, or not running water, I'm sorry, but it was something dealing with the sewage. That was like the only thing, right?
All of the homes didn't have.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But everything else, it was like a 99% approval rating of any and everything else. If a white neighborhood had that, what Pleasant Hill had, they would easily have had the best rating for being able to get a loan. Right? They denied the loan simply because it said too much. What did it say? What did it say?
There were too many black residents.
Jeez.
It's on the paperwork, like literally.
It's on the paperwork.
Yeah, on the paperwork, right? So there was something intentional done to keep us messed up. So there needs to be something intentional to repair and to fix the problem. And there were things that were done to fix the issues, right? But people were able to see loopholes, and they saw everything that was meant to help us as black folks, different programs and things that were created to help us. The same way people talk about how white women, benefited more from DEI. The same things happen with these different development programs and situations where people now, you got white developers that are getting rich off of CDFIs. That's why you see a lot of white developers coming into black neighborhoods because you have all these subsidies and incentives and stuff like that. Like the opportunity zones and all that kind of stuff, right? But there's a big game being played right here in Macon, Georgia, like for real, And people only want to, just look at the mayor. Of course, he definitely is not transparent. He's not bringing any data about with anything. But there's a big game being played across the board when it comes to development and true community development. And I'm challenging, some of these different organizations to educate our community and challenging our people, especially to look into this, especially this urban core and this urban core development, because they're using money that's meant for Black communities and underserved, marginalized communities, and they're putting it in their own pocket or just building up downtown, and it's totally unfair.
Well, Tia and Miss
I think
Malone, as we bring this new platform to you all, to the community, I think is overdue. I think is overdue and much needed. Tia and Brother Malone, can you tell the people what do you all plan to bring to our community?
I,
They both smiled at the same time. All right, Bishop, this got to be serious, man.
You're like, all right.
Yeah.
well, our goal is really to bring truth, justice, and fairness. We want our community to be educated culturally, historically, holistically. So whatever we can do, whatever information, data that we've been gathering and collecting over the years, we want to be able to share that with our community. We want our community to fact check us. Any information
Absolutely.
that we provide, we want to make sure that you can go back and double check it yourself. And if you got questions, ask us, or make it a community conversation. But we really truly want civic engagement, civic empowerment. We need to start building ourselves up as a community. And when we start educating ourselves, I think that is the bridge, or the gateway to us being empowered and self-determined, and making all of these, connections that we say that we want and we need in our community. It can't just be done when you're talking about economics. What is why is it beneficial for us to shop Black? Why is it beneficial for us to connect the private
that's
and
right.
public sector? We have to understand why these things are important, not just that, hey, this is important because we're Black. No, it's important because if we want to talk about true generational wealth and legacy building and making sure our children have something, to look forward to, when we, and again, just bringing it back to, the suicides, the mental health issues, the substance abuse issues that we see in our community, the poverty, the homelessness, all of those things are connected. Until we can connect those dots, we're going to stay lost. We're going to stay in a space where people can, get over on us, or, just tell us whatever. And we, take the bare minimum because that's what we're used to. So we have to break out of those boxes.
Yeah, but we have some actual tangible things that are happening, some real life movements that are happening. Some of it is premature, so a couple of them we can't necessarily, I guess, talk about. What we will talk about, it's not, we're not trying to be transparent. We just don't want to be premature
Right.
with certain things. But yeah, we are very active, like extremely active. One thing we're very excited about is this radio show. We're gonna bring some fire to this city when it comes to this radio show and what you guys are doing with the glory. Like, I like to just salute you all, man. Like, this is a, like, I would cry on here, but I ain't gonna do that. I ain't gonna do. But if I felt like I would, tears be like, oh man, you wanna cry, right?
Go
You know what I
ahead,
mean? But
shed a
nah.
tear.
But I'm serious, man. Like, I really appreciate you for standing that olive branch. For us to come onto this show. Today and in the future. We've been reaching out to certain people. This gonna be a fire radio show. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. I had an open mic for 15 years. It's called Monday Night Live. I started here, and I got awarded. No, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say not I. We got awarded. No, I got awarded as a host, but we got awarded as a open mics being the number one open mic and talent showcase in the state of Georgia 2 years running, and we the only one nominated outside of Atlanta. We beat places like Apache and stuff like that. I brought that up to say that Macon has the most talent musically. We have a lot of the most talent behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and all around. And I want us to be able to to highlight that, highlight the talent and the untapped potential that we have here in Macon, Middle Georgia. And also, we're connected to some folks too that are doing things statewide and on a national level, right? I'm blessed, to have some mentors like Dr. Chike Akua, who's a professor at Clark University. He's one of the top authors and homeschool educators in the country. He's going to be coming down to Juneteenth. He's going to be the keynote speaker at Juneteenth this year, and he's also going to be doing some things with the Tubman, things of that nature. People like Ms. Kim Carter, who's also a mentor of mine with Rep Georgia. Yeah, but even people here locally that are doing major things. We got folks like Lock Dog, who's always trying to shoot movies, trying to shine a light on what's happening in the community with young brothers and working with them. People like Sherman Kine, who brother who was in the streets to change his life, turn his life around. Now he's the vice president for Hill Neighborhood Association. I just met a young brother, 22 years old, buying up property around here, buying up property, in neighborhoods. Him and his brother have a trucking business, things like that. We need to hear all these different stories and dynamic people that we have here, so we can help, motivate some folks to know, hey, we need more than people sitting in the mayor position. We need the next, like Deacon Brown said, we need, more than just, a couple of folks, sitting on these boards, or, we always outnumbered in a majority Black town when it comes to leadership, so we need to be able to help, to highlight, our younger people and other folks in this town and inspire other people to get.
What do you appreciate though about now we are just we're about truth. We're about transparency here on this station. And when we purchased this station going on 5 years ago, it was never about us. It was never about us. It's always been for the people. Now, the reason I say that is because Bishop Scott and I want the listeners, and a lot of them do know, that we don't take money. We don't, we ain't in, we're not taking crumbs or anything like that. But transparency and a voice for the city, not just for people in power, but for the what we would say, some would say the little man. Everybody's important to us. Everybody is big.
That's right.
On this station. Everybody is great, because if you are an individual, you're somebody to us. As those voices come through this station, if you ever listen to Drive Time or our morning show, everybody that calls into this station, we build them, we make them great, we make them know that there's somebody. But as you all come, Desmond Brown, the deacon, the shea butter deacon, the shea butter deacon. He was with Ashley, but now
coming soon. Stage play coming soon. Wow.
you once was Ashley, hallelujah, but you found the shea butter.
Now you're greasy.
Now you're greasy. He's a greasy deacon. But as we move into saying, hey, WDDO is where we want you to know that we're going to keep it 100 with you. If we're going to lie, we're just not going to talk. We just do sign language. Yeah,
but you put your money, but you put your money where your mouth is. You put action behind it, Chief.
Yeah.
I want to remind the listeners when Board Member Lucas was on here about us boycotting H&H Soul Food, I want them to remember that WDDO, Apostle and Bishop, picked up the phone and made one phone call, and what was his name? The owner, Wes, changed his mind. So we're not. This ain't just not being able to. You're not just talking about it at WDDO Glory. You're actually putting action. You're putting work behind the faith that we're saying over here, and I don't want people to forget that. We save time in boycotting these businesses, as we will boycott, but sometimes it just takes picking up the phone and reaching out to them. And you've shown us that, Chief, and I want the people to remember that. Thank you so much for that, because H&H is a staple, and will always be a staple in the Black community, or this community, because I don't want it to be a black and white thing, because you have whites that actually support this radio station. They certainly vote for Desmond Brown. Don't get it twisted. Okay, so But Deacon, that's right. I want to make sure they understand that this is not black, white. This is, we want to be truth. We want truth. We want transparency, and we want Macon Bill to be the best that it can be on all levels.
Right, right. You
So
may
yeah, I want to point that out.
you may challenge the truth, but you can't change the truth. Bishop Scott.
Listen, I'm so not only impressed, but I'm overjoyed just to hear the information that
They
was
got the
given.
Barry White voice.
The information that was given from Tia and LJ this morning, it's just been a blessing. It's refreshing, let's say that.
Yes, it is.
Because it just it shows that there's definitely hope. And it's encouraging. So, anything we can do to assist, anything that we can do, and as you see, we're serious about what we say. Let us know
That's
how
right.
we can put it out there, get it out so that we can make a difference in the community, because a lot of people say things but don't follow through. But we try to make sure that we actually have boots on the ground for what we say we're going to do.
Not the boots on the ground, man. What? You ain't gonna do that.
All the boots on the ground.
We got fans too. We got
Combat
fans.
boots, combat boots.
We got all that stuff. We got
We got a WDDO fan. No play.
That's right. We got video fans. Disrespect will not be tolerated. We'll flip the fans out and say disrespect will not be tolerated.
Come
Well,
on.
I'm excited about it, Tia. I am so excited about it. Again, you know me, I'm a comedian too, but I look forward to the hey Desmond. I look forward to the show because Mr. Malone, like when we're talking, he just looked dead at the camera and he just said, and then but when he get in his mood, then my eyes go to going all around the room and he gonna rock it. I mean, he pulling information from everywhere. I get 1970 when they built the first pyramid. Jesus was not white; he's black.
Y'all can get ready. Here you go.
It ain't me. Y'all know what I mean.
But I think that once we pull, as he says, pull data and know truth, you will be surprised. And I say this with humility. You will be surprised when you follow the money, where the money is going.
Right.
That's right.
You will be so. I was shocked, because you can say what you want. See, I don't need a friend in the daytime. That ain't a friend. A friend is somebody you can call 1 o'clock in the morning and say, I'm stuck out the road, and they come. I need a friend in the dark. that don't sound
That's right.
Forgive me, wife. That ain't what I'm talking about. But right. but to know that we have truth. Pastor Antonio Jackson, good morning to you. Antonio Jackson is on. Good morning to you. Odoms, good morning to you. But their show is going to be coming on. What are y'all calling your show? Have y'all got that yet?
Sorry. We're between a couple of different names. But right now we can just tell you right now we're leaning towards Village Talk.
Village Talk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because a lot of this was inspired through. Shout out to Mr. Antonio too, who from Homeland Village. Him and
Yes.
Uncle Kirk. Mr. Kirk at Homeland Village is like an uncle to me and Tia both. And Homeland Village has been like an oasis, for myself and for Tia and others for a while. And just the village,
And
just
for the Deacon, the best shea butter this side of the old
See, that where the Deacon get his shea butter from, you know what I'm saying? So
best shea butter, I'm gonna put that plug in.
yeah. But one thing I was reminding me and T was talking, and one day, people talking about, how a lot of times people talk about how, well, black folks, we need to come together. We always fighting and doing this and doing that or whatever, right? And I always say this, right? That well, what about the village? The village concept, right? Like when you think about the village, what do you think about? Right? Most people, you automatically think about black folks or think about Africa or native, black melanated people, and that means at one time or we knew how to come together. Like we understand, we have a blueprint for unity already. Like, so we just need to be reminded, of that which we already came from. We need to be reminded about our greatness and how we created civilizations and pretty much invented any and everything that we're using today in modern time. So like the village, on the village talk is really more of what we want to, the perspective that we want to come from, because it's still, solution oriented. We're gonna talk about these issues, but the solution at the end of the day is for us to bring it back to the village. You know what I
I
mean?
think I
And be
got your
able to do.
theme song though. I think I got. And listen at this. I think I got your theme song.
Celebration.
Man, but listen, it's going to be great right here. We are excited about your show. We're excited about what you bring, not going to bring. And I'll say this with what some I say humility all the time. You're not already. You're not. You all are just not coming. You're already doing. See, I believe that you don't
We
have to
ain't playing.
wait on something to do something. You're already doing it before you get there.
Yes, sir.
You
That's
know,
right.
So
and
when we
you
leave
are.
here, we're gonna be doing it. So
That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah, and we thank you so much, Tia. Any words for us before you? I know we over time. We didn't expect to stay this long. You know, we was going to hop in and hop out, but when you get on WDDO, it's just yeah. Give me your thoughts on this morning.
I just want to say thank you to you, to Tony, to our community, really, for entrusting us with something so important, for allowing us to be ourselves, to speak truth to power, and to be a representation of what true community work, what true community unity looks like. And so I just pray that with everything that's going on, not just locally, but nationally, that we can come together and just find a way to look towards solutions and still do it with love and decency and respect and integrity.
Yes, love it. Your thoughts, Mr. Malone. Watch y'all. Go ahead.
no, I'm just excited, man. Like, man,
Oh, look
please,
at the
man.
vibes. Look at the
Hey, y'all leave me alone, man. Leave me alone. I'm gonna work on my eye contact. That's what I'm gonna do. I need training. That's what I'm looking forward to. Learn how to look at the camera. But truthfully though, like I'm just I'm humbled. Like I'm so humbled by this opportunity, and I'm so appreciative of y'all. Like y'all are godsend for our community. By
Absolutely.
the time like like this platform. I mean, and y'all been doing this work. So don't you when I said we're gonna bring some fire, like somebody put in the chat, hey, we already on fire. I know you're probably talking about today, but y'all definitely have already been on fire. You know what I mean? We just want to pour a little more gas on it. Put a little gas
Are you crazy? Now, Desmond, what do you think? Last words this morning.
Yes, sir. Operation Youth. We will get to the 30,000 quicker, Chief, when we reach out to the youth about getting them involved. That's it. Operation Youth. Let's get them involved.
Man, we love it. Bishop Scott?
I'm just appreciative of the newness, if you would say, like I said earlier, the refreshing aspect of what's about to happen. I appreciate what they bring to the table, and I applaud you for the work that you've already done. I really do. But I'm really thankful now that you all have a platform that you can even get further out there. You thought you got nominations before. Let's make this Grammy worthy. Let's make some things happen. Because I really believe that you all can. That too. That too. That too. Have it all the way out there to make sure that everybody knows and has the information necessary, because you all are actually doing the work, and so it should be appreciated. But I thank you for allowing us to allow you an opportunity to get your work out there.
Yeah, we're so humble. Not that you're coming on the station, but we're humble that you chose us, and are available to be on this show and to really just help us continue to bring truth and life. Because I think that if you take life from us, you're taking our ways of functioning. And so as we bring life back to our community, we're the strongest group of people in the world, and it's the truth, whether we admit it or not. But we are a strong group of people. And if we kill the mentality that was imputed in us back during slavery, that the guy that lived in the master's house would tell that somebody was leaving and forgot he was a slave too. And I think when we get rid of the mentality that we all shut up, Desmond. Will you shut up? Let me be serious, Deacon.
Okay.
Who's that on that horse?
Oh, dang, snitch.
Who that?
It's okay to be a whistleblower. Nobody likes a snitch.
The Django.
Yeah.
But when we realize, there's one concept I have in my church, in our lives growing up, playing sports. If somebody lose, somebody has to win. If somebody wins, somebody has to lose. But in my theory in life, we all can be winners.
Right.
And I think that some may win, get there earlier, but we all are winners when we cross over. So as we push into that, I want us all win. We look forward to the show, Village People. I can't wait to find a thing. I can't wait till y'all give us a theme song. Yeah. Da-da, da-da, da-da. I don't know. But thank you all so much. We're going to have a part 2. You're going to be hearing them. We're going to be doing the imaging on their show that they're going to be bringing right here to WDDO. So it's like a TKO. No, don't do it, Apostle. I'm sorry, my bad. Desmond Brown, thank you so much. The Deacon, listen, I'll meet you down there at the Village. I got to pick up some shea butter myself.
All right.
That's black seed oil and black seed.
Black seed oil.
Inside and outside.
Look, I go down there. Uncle be like, "Listen, this you see this here now. You do take it now. It's gonna be a little bitter." I just say it's gonna be a little bitter now, but once you get it past your throat, hey Bishop, he said, Uncle Hodges said, take this black seed oil now. Now listen, now you're gonna need a chaser behind it. When you take it. Listen, Bishop, he said, now don't let it sit in your mouth, go on and swallow. I mean, no. Can't get this. Hey Bishop, then I go back and say, Uncle, this 2 points. Oh, I got one in appeal. You want?
Got whatever you need.
But it is so amazing, and I do want to say this to Uncle Kurt Hodges and Village. People really don't know that spot down here on Napier Avenue is a ministry all by
Yes, it is.
itself. And I mean it. It's a ministry. I mean, it's a sense of peace from the moment you walk in there, and it's amazing. I can go in there for one thing, and next thing I know, I've been there an hour or 2 hours. You know, just talking,
right.
and by the time you know, then Uncle say something like, "You want to try this plate?" Now I'm telling you now, it tastes just like roast beef. I'm telling you now, and he put so much love in the food.
Right.
That he cooked down there. I'm glad that when he was out of town, Tony didn't try to cook nothing. Thank you, Tony. But we appreciate you all. We look forward to the show. It's been Drive Time right here on 980 WDDO. Stay tuned for more incredible gospel music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll be with you again in the morning at 6 a.m. right here on 980 WDDO. May your day be great.
Mortuary, located at 3241 Houston Avenue in South Macon, serving you and those you love with a personal touch is their motto for service. Sympathy, understanding.
For the world to see. Link, yeah, we got the ads of glass.